Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Monday Discourse for today, January 25th, 2021. I'm your host, Tristan, and this is going to be the last Monday Discourse in this room, so that's fun. I'm the host of the YouTube channel Step Back History, and Tristan Won't Shut Up. And my streaming schedule, all of this is going to be Eastern time, by the way. Mondays I stream from 12 to 2, which is where I do the Monday Discourse with Mia Mulder, who will be here shortly. Tuesday nights from 7 to 9 I do Step Back Tonight, which is a show where it's just you and me. We chill, we answer some questions. It's fun. It's a fun time. And then on Fridays, I do the Reactor, which goes from 12 until 2, where people send me content and I react to it. Now, I have to mention at the start of the stream here, because of some schedule swaps that are happening in the next week, I'm moving this weekend, so there's going to be a few streams canceled. Specifically, the Reactor this Friday is going to be pushed back, so there's not going to be a Reactor on Friday. And the Monday Discourse next Monday, February 1st, is also not going to happen because I can't guarantee that I'm going to have internet and everything all set up and ready to go for that time. I'm going to make sure to get it ready for Tuesday, but yeah. You know what it's like to unpack. You know the stuff. Y'all know how much of a pain in the ass moving is. So that's fun. I go by he, him pronouns. You can find my work at stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com. If you're watching us on Twitch and you have Amazon Prime, I just want to mention that you get one free Twitch Prime subscription per month. Costs you nothing, and if you don't use it, Amazon basically gets to keep your money. So please use it to support an independent Twitch creator that you enjoy. And, yeah. If you choose Step Back, I'll be very grateful. But, of course, I just want you to use it on a Twitch creator that you enjoy. If you want to check out my latest content, the latest Step Back video came out a week ago, and it's on Martin Luther King and the Poor People's Campaign. Very fun video. It's very depressing, but good, I hope. And my next video should be coming out on Friday. I'll be filming it after the stream is over, and it's going to be about... why is my brain blocking? It's about the Yakuza, the Japanese organized crime. So that'll be fun. It'll be good times. Good times, everybody. Yeah, Tristan Won't Shut Up. The latest video I have out is about Star Trek. The next one I have coming out is going to be a little helpful piece on how to stand out, how to make content that actually is, like, you know, not generic and finding a niche, basically. The process of finding a niche for yourself. And if you want to submit questions for the stream in general, you can go to this link that I'm going to put in the chat. This link is a place where you can submit what kind of questions you want to ask and what show you want to ask it for. We're not going to be able to get to yours today because we do have a good backlog, but yeah, if you want to ask a question, just get it in there, and we will talk about that. If we have... Also, the other thing is that Step Back has grown quite a bit in the last little while, so if somebody, if it's their first time here in the chat, first time here or watching a stream, please make yourself known in the chat. We've got a really great and actual, or really, you know, great and active community. So I would highly recommend that you say hi and everybody make them feel welcome. I see that we got Megan Taylor, who's new, so that's fun. Okay. Aren't the Yakuza attached to the... Oh, right. Let me fix that link. My bad. So somebody said, aren't the Yakuza attached to the Japanese far right? And the answer is yes. All right, let me call up Mia, the Queen of the North, and see if she's in from the Darklands.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Everything's working. Thank God.
Is that sunlight?
Oh God, no. Absolutely
Okay.
not. That is what I call far too much lighting. Actually, let me turn that off as much as I can.
Trying to just get your daily vitamin D dose.
In terms of like shitty light bulbs, yeah.
How you doing?
Hi. Yeah, I'm doing. That's an excellent question. Let me just see if I can get some sort of lighting going on here. My internet went out recently, and I still haven't like reconfigured all of my lights to work the way they should. Hi, I'm doing great. I've been working for like 6 hours straight, no food, no water. So I'm enjoying the fact that I can talk to you like a human person, which is very nice. How are you doing?
Not bad. Please let everybody know though who you are and where they can consume the things that you make.
I make things on youtube.com/c/miamulder. You can just go to miamulder.com and then that'll forward you straight to my YouTube channel. I also stream on Twitch on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I rant incoherently on Twitter as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
Today I am exhausted, and I have to work after this stream as well. So that's where I am right now.
Fun.
Very fun, but I do get to dress up in a nice little fun hat. So who knows? Also, the cat is like acting up a little bit, so I'm just gonna move. Just say quick hi.
Oh
Hello.
my God! It's a calico kitty.
Yes, and I'm just gonna move.
I think that's the first time that you have posted cat in this stream.
In this stream, yes. I have shown Cat on my own stream occasionally, but a lot of the time she doesn't want to hang out.
I've had a hell of a week just because I'm noticing that like in COVID times, because a lack of anything else to do, if anything resembling a thing is happening in your life, it's the only thing that you think about.
Uh-huh.
So the fact that I'm moving on the weekend and I'm getting a house on Friday has like completely consumed every single thought I have.
Sorry, what did you say?
The fact that I have a house, or I'm getting a house on Friday and moving on Sunday, because I think that there's a critical period that because of the internet outage I wasn't able to talk to you about, which is that we needed to sublet this place because we are locked into a lease.
Yeah.
So we found a subletter. So that's good news.
That's good news.
The complication is that we were originally planning on moving on February 11th, and he wanted to move in on February 1st. So we managed to get everything changed, but now what was going to be, you know, a few weeks from now is Sunday.
It's like now. Yeah, it's like right now.
Okay. I just realized that's going to get me in shit because subletting is not being a landlord, but it's also not being a landlord. But for anyone who doesn't know, subletting is when you have an apartment that you are renting and then you in turn rent it to somebody else at a lower price usually because you're locked into a lease or you're not going to be living in it for a while, so you want to reduce the amount of money you're paying in rent.
Yeah.
So
I mean, subletting one place that I feel it doesn't like make you a landlord. It's more like owning 400 buildings is what makes you like an evil landlord.
Yeah, it's just
in my opinion.
There's no way to win because either somebody pays me a little bit of rent, or the more likely option, if I didn't do that, and then I'd be paying two monthly expenses, and on top of that, 2 monthly expenses, and on top of that, an apartment, a perfectly good apartment, goes empty for 4 months.
Yeah, so like, I feel like what you're doing right now is like the least bad option.
Yeah, and also, yeah, I am charging them less than what the apartment costs, so we will be, it is anti-landlording. I am losing money.
You're doing. It's okay to do landlording if you're doing it badly.
Yeah, I'm making, like, the thing is, like, I'm not making money off this. What I'm doing is losing less money.
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I feel like losing less money is always a positive,
And
especially in these certain times.
And it seems that the person that I'm subletting it to also is somebody who is currently writing out a little bit of unemployment time because they work in restaurants. So I'm perfectly happy to rent to them at a reduced rate and everything. So
yeah, hell yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So this Friday, I get to go pick up keys and I get to go into house. And I'll tell you one thing. You know how like everyone's talking about how during COVID that like animals are getting like because their humans are around so much more, they're getting attachment anxiety, and that when people start going back to work and stuff, that they're going to have a really hard time with it. So one of the things we're doing, because of timing on moving and everything like that, is we're moving the cats to the house on Saturday night and then moving on Sunday morning. And everyone, and I will say the only person who's having the separation anxiety is me. I'm like, they're going to be in that house all alone for like maybe 12 hours.
What are they going to do?
I know.
Oh, that's cute.
I'm like, they'll be all alone in the house. And so I'm like, I'm going to pack their toys and their bed. And like,
they have like stuff to do. Yeah.
I am, yeah.
It's cute.
It's been real good. This is all to just like completely put off the fact that this is the Monday Discourse, and Monday's Discourse has just been dominated by Jimmy Dore showing his ass again.
Showing his entire ass. Like, I don't even keep up with Jimmy Dore, and yet it's been everywhere.
Yeah.
Dude, what are you doing?
He did a whole post, basically, if anyone wants to catch up. He did a whole post where he interviewed somebody from the Boogaloo movement and basically said that these people are pretty good and we should probably be friends with them. And now it's starting into a discourse about should the left be friends with fascists? And it's like, you know, I knew I was going to have to make a video on the Strasser brothers and beefsteak Nazis this year, but I didn't know I'd have to do it in February or whatever.
Yeah, like, we're getting right out of the gate. Like, Biden is inaugurated, and now it's like, yes, red-brown alliance for some stupid reason.
Yeah, and people don't know their histories. They don't know that, I'll tell you this has been tried before, and I will say, it did not end well for the socialists. It
does, yeah, it rarely ends well. Usually ends with a lot of knives.
I do remember those, what was it, you know this history a bit better than I do. The communists who refused to show up on the very key vote where they were going to give a whole bunch of dictatorial power to the Nazi party, and the communists didn't show up for the vote, so it passed, and...
Yeah, because fuck electoralism.
Because Nazis happened?
Well, I mean, it's not fully. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but it's there are definitely elements to that. I don't think it was the vote to like give them a dictatorial power, but I think it was. I don't exactly remember exactly which vote that they abstained from, and it did lead eventually to that. I'm sorry. This cat is like obsessed with something, and I don't know what. I've never had her be this active during a stream, and I'm very sorry.
It's all good. She is baby, so she's of that age where cats act like they're perpetually on cocaine until they hit around the age of 6. They hit a hard wall, and then they just turn into like furniture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like Phoebe's like 11, and I'm just like, I've actually seen her like lie down in a bed or something like that, and I'm like, you haven't moved in 13 hours. Like, are you alive? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. Okay. I am just sleeping.
Tina, calm down. Oh my god. It's been hard to record videos because she will like want to take part. It's
true. They get attracted to your talking, right?
Yeah. I apologize for this happening during the stream. I tried to kick her out, but she just screams by the door. And I thought that this would be a better alternative, but now I'm not sure. Now I'm not so sure.
It's all good. Yeah, so that was I don't know, Red Browning, like the Strasser brothers, like here's some things about fascists that we need to talk about this year that I think I need to realign a few things, which is that I'm having this thought that maybe
oh my god.
Oh no.
No, that's it. Jail time.
It's time for cat jail.
Here you go. Bye.
Did she break something?
I'll deal with that later.
Did she break anything?
She tipped over a glass that had like a little bit of water right over an electrical outlet, so I'm a bit like
oh dear.
But nothing's broken. She broke a glass last week, so she got a taste for it. But everything's fine. And now she's crying by the door again.
Oh no.
But now I have to put the foot down and say like no, she committed a felony and she can't get in.
She's now going to cat prison.
She's going to cat prison, yeah.
So to kind of pick up on the thing, I think that we might need to have a conversation about talking about fascism as being a little bit outside of the left-right dynamic, and that it changes. It's very much like a trying to create a dictatorship and racism and nationalism, but it's kind of outside of the political class discussion, and it can wrap itself up in being pro-capitalist, anti-capitalist. It has taken over socialist groups. It has taken over conservatives and libertarian groups. It's complicated in that sense. And why I don't talk about the Strasser brothers, because the Strasser brothers are basically, they were Nazis. They were part of the actual Nazi party. And they were socialists. And they were sort of the left wing of the Nazi party, and that's like a thing.
Yeah, having a more economic hatred against Jews than an ethnic hatred against them.
Yeah,
while still having the same fucking results. Obviously, being also based on wacko conspiracy theories.
Yeah, and the other thing that comes to mind is a guy named Father Coughlin, who I actually think Jimmy Dore has a lot in common with, who was a very popular radio host back in like the 1930s, who actually had a newspaper called Social Justice, and was not connected to current discussions on social justice, by the way, because this guy very quickly was like, I like FDR and the New Deal. And like, I don't like capitalism and I want to fight corporate greed and inequality. And then eventually went into, hey, you know who runs all these banks that are ruining the world? Hey, there's these guys in Italy and Germany who seem to be doing pretty good stuff for the common working man. And eventually FDR kicked him out of the country, so we had to start broadcasting from Mexico. Yeah.
As you do, yeah.
One of Canada's less good exports. Father Coughlin, who was born in Hamilton, Ontario.
You have a lot of those exports, I feel like, in Canada.
It's
There's a lot of. It's not completely out of fashion, and it started a long tradition of Canadian ultra-racist exports.
Yeah, I mean, Father Coughlin's from Hamilton, which, if anybody knows, is only about a 45-minute drive from Mississauga, which is the city that Stefan Molyneux bases himself out of.
Oh my god.
And, you know, I lived in a city, I had to vote in a mayoral election where Faith Goldie was on the ballot.
I don't know who Faith Goldie is.
She is a white nationalist. She's one of those white nationalist ladies.
Ah,
she's known as she I don't remember what her like claim to fame is exactly, because they're all so similar, but she came in third in the election. She got 16,000 votes. Admittedly, she got 16,000 votes in a city of 2 million people, but
still, that's 16,000 too many.
Yeah. And Jordan Peterson, Jordan Peterson's from this area too. I remember we've had to endure Jordan Peterson longer than anybody. Like Jordan Peterson, I remember his start because there's this local access TV show. So we have a local access station called TVO or TV Ontario. And there is like this panel talk show called The Agenda with Steve Piken. And Steve Piken is like the most insufferable centrist of all time. But he does he does do interesting things. Like he'll be like, we're going to have an election panel tonight, and we're going to invite a guy from the Marxist-Leninist Party to join the panel, which like I know is like not that abnormal in Europe, but here it would be like completely unthinkable.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, so, but one of the things that he did, especially in the 1990s, was that anytime, or the early 2000s I think is more likely, anytime he had to talk about something to do with psychology, Jordan Peterson was like his psychologist on his like Rolodex. And so he'd always have Jordan Peterson on to talk about pop psychology shit. And then on top of that, like his Michaela Peterson would also be on that show once in a while because they documented her like fight again, like the kind of like weird alternative, not so much the all meat diet, but other shit that she's been involved with because she has like health issues and depression issues and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh god. So the Petersons have been grifting Ontario for a long time, and he was a U of T professor, which U of T was only like 2 blocks from where I lived when I lived in Toronto. So like this is all like, yeah, Canada sucks. We export a lot of shitty people.
It's not a real country and exports just terrible shit. Wonderful. But you're good though, so that's, you know, it's not all bad.
I try.
There are some good YouTubers up there too.
It's true. I have a feeling that it might just be the fact that this is like true of like Canadians and all sorts of parts of media, which is that on average we're a bit more affluent than Americans. And also because of our accent and cultural touchstones, we can speak very easily to American culture. And so that, and also Canada really, really invests in art compared to the United States, invests a lot in like media and stuff like that, which makes me think that those things all combined is the reason why so many like actors and stuff like that and TV shows are all Canadian. We like export it a lot. Like for example, The Expanse is filmed in Toronto. Actually, a lot of movies are filmed in Toronto, and a lot of TV shows are filmed in Vancouver. That's
like I feel like every like low budget sci-fi show seems to be filmed in Canada for some reason.
Yeah, well, like The Expanse and The Expanse, The Boys, and The Umbrella Academy were at one point we're all filming their seasons in Toronto specifically. Like when I watch The Boys, I'm literally like, oh, I know that corner.
I've been there.
Yeah, and they also there was like this little like kind of like alley behind my building that had some stores and stuff in it, and they literally filmed like they had it all walled off for like several days because they were filming Umbrella Academy there. So how does Jordan Peterson get so popular? That's actually a pretty good question. You did a much bigger video about this. You probably have a much more nuanced take than I do.
I mean, not really. I think he's very good at like tapping into a public consciousness about like certain insecurities and creating a worldview that is so insular, but also like self-fulfilling, that for anyone who buys into it, it makes perfect sense. But for anyone who's outside of it, it makes no sense at all. So it leads people to think. It leads people who buy into it. It's like, oh, this is the solution to all my problems, and everyone else is wrong. A bit like red pilling, but like has a bit more like structured like canon to it all. Like instead of like traditional red pill ideology going into like, oh, you have to, like, men going their own way have to be super sexist and do all of these things. It's more like basic self-help stuff. But it's a sort of similar entry point, I think.
Yeah.
And he creates his own like language to support it all. He talks about chaos and like self-fulfilling confidence and anti-nihilism and shit like that. But none of it makes
sometimes I have chaos dragon energy.
Oh, I have a cat. Like, there's a cat in my apartment now, so that's definitely chaos energy.
Yeah, I always feel like Jordan Peterson reminds me a lot of... Do you remember The Secret? The thing that, like, Oprah people were really into for a while, which was, like, the way to make good things happen in your life is because you imagined it and you affirmed it enough times. And that if you don't get the things you want, it's because you didn't have a positive mindset.
Yeah, you can manifest things into existence with a mindset.
He's Jordan Peterson in many ways reminds me of just like the kind of boring self-help, like the kind of like cultish self-help stuff that attracts all sorts of people in desperate situations. It's just that he happened to have locked onto incels, and he also came into prevalence at a time where anybody who was saying reactionary stuff against any sort of social progress was just being given unlimited money and tons of attention.
Oh, yeah, like he became super famous for like speaking out against some like minor law in Canada.
Yeah.
And he was very good at like monetizing that attention and like building on it, which, you know, credit where it's due.
He also seems to have this weird ability where the second he's at 14 minutes and 59 seconds on his 15 minutes of fame, he does something, and all of a sudden everybody has to talk about him again.
Yeah, like really much so. Like he never goes away. He almost went away, and then it became like a lot of drama.
Yeah, but now nobody knows. Now he's like...
I have no idea what the hell is going on with him. He's writing another book, I think.
His daughter is Weekend at Bernie's-ing him.
And he's alive, maybe?
But he's brain damaged somehow? I don't know.
No one knows. I can't keep up anymore. I feel like he's not even close to as culturally relevant as he used to be.
This is true. Okay. So I am looking at the stuff here. So we have questions.
Oh, nice. We love questions.
Yes. We love them, don't we? Donald Trump.
Our precious questions.
Okay. So here's the thing, is that my my question bank is now almost completely caught up if you're asking a question just to me. So now it is almost all Mia questions.
Nice.
So you are queen of the questions.
I love being the center of attention. That's why I became a YouTuber.
So first we're going to go to... First question is about Turf Island. A fun and joyous place. That
Turf Island, yes. Yeah, truly the bane of human existence, yes.
Yeah. So there's some drama going on when it comes to hormone blockers right now.
Yes, they banned it for people who were under 18, I think, or under 21. Not sure which one, and they allowed an appeal, but that appeal isn't going to go through in until 3 years or something like that.
Makes
At which
sense
point, for a lot of people who are needing it now and have it taken away, that kind of defeats the purpose. In the long term, yes, an appeal is good, but because it takes so long, then kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah,
for a lot
hormone blockers for you when you're 18. It's like wearing a what's it called? It's like for condoms for people who are 3 months pregnant.
Yeah, oh, perfect. That's exactly what I needed. Thank you.
Yeah, fun. So the question here is, I finally figured out the situation with hormone blockers in the UK, and I can't decide if the NHS are being cowards or not. The court issued a vague ruling saying kids probably can't consent, and the NHS reacted by stopping all hormone blocker prescriptions. Mm-hmm. At the moment, non-NHS doctors can still prescribe hormone blockers. I'm wondering if the NHS figured them continuing would provoke an outright ban, meaning kids wouldn't be able to get blockers anymore. So I'm not sure if the NHS are being cowardly or if they're being brutally pragmatic.
A lot of like big state institutions are really, like, a lot of state institutions are kind of limited in what they can do. Like, if something says kids probably can't consent to this type of medication, as opposed to most other medication to which kids can consent to, and there have been many laws and like court cases affirming that. I think that the NHS maybe aren't cowards. I think they're just like overly cautious, in the sense of like, because of there's a because what it sounds like in a way that the ruling is like fairly vague. Then like I don't see like I think the NHS like probably gets out new guidelines to avoid any sort of fuck up at all. So yeah, okay, maybe a little bit coward, maybe a little bit. Yeah. But I don't think they're being pragmatic in the sense of like, oh, if we keep doing it, it might be banned entirely. I don't think that's what's happening. I think they're just being overly cautious.
And it is one of those situations where, like, specifically with hormone blockers, it isn't a legally complicated situation because, yeah, kids do have like a limited capacity to consent to things, but also hormone blockers are one of those things where the earlier that you can get them to a kid, the less likely like gender dysphoria and these like a lot of the serious mental health issues that come with not being able to transition as you like can be avoided.
Yeah, and it kind of goes because like kids can consent to like normal healthcare too, right? And that's sort of where also it becomes a bit more of a gray area, because like if parents don't want kids to be vaccinated, but if a kid wants to be vaccinated, in some countries, I have no idea if that's the case in like in the UK or not, the kid like has, it is like authoritative because kids have bodily autonomy, and they can choose about what they do when it comes to like what kind of medicine that they have. But that bodily autonomy is like viewed in different contexts depending on the country and depending on like what kind of medication we're talking about, which is why this is the sort of like weird thing. They can't actually. The reason I think why the court ruling is probably a bit vague, especially in the UK, is because if they said that like kids definitely cannot consent to this type of medication, that would probably contradict another like law that says that kids have a right to determine their own healthcare.
Yeah, it's the Magna Carta.
And like maybe I have no idea what's in the Magna Carta, unfortunately, but it's whatever that like right is like critically important, because that also determines like kids' access to abortion, which unfortunately is something that like happens. It determines like kids getting like STD medication. It determines kids to get like things that we don't want to think about kids needing access to, but like they do. And these things have to have like been like taken out in court.
Yeah.
And if you outright declare that like kids cannot consent to any sort of medication, and only said that like only parents can determine the healthcare of a child, then that contravenes like so many things, and just destroys the rights of kids fundamentally, like going back to like the 1800s.
Yeah.
So what the TERFs are trying to do is like they're trying to craft a language here where they can ban this sort of medication without like undermining the very concept of children's rights. And they're finding it difficult to do. And that's why the court statement is very vague, because that's basically what they can do.
So I was just like, the joke, I was trying to make a joke about Magna Carta, like that Magna Carta was about healthcare rights or something, but is fine. It was a serious moment. I shouldn't have made a joke.
No, you can't. There's like it's just like I don't know fuck all about the Magna Carta.
I saw it
once. Unfortunately, don't tell my history professors.
I actually saw it once when I was in the UK back in 2007. They had it all the way back in 2007. Did you know that?
The Magna Carta?
Yeah.
Damn, that's cool.
It's pretty old, I've heard.
Pretty old, yeah. It was going back to the aughts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. The fact... Okay, I know that, like, the second people start...
I definitely need to read up on the Magna Carta so bad.
Anytime Zoomers, like, show, like, nostalgia for shows like Jimmy Neutron and stuff like that, which were, which came out in the aughts and, like, were TV show... Like, explicitly remember them as kid shows that were, like, I'm too old for this. That's when, like, every time I see that, I think a new gray hair shows up. Every single time someone's like, God, remember back in the old days when we were kids and we would listen to the Green Day American Idiot album? And I was just like, oh, God, I think my back just got sore.
Yeah, I feel the same thing. I've seen some people being like, oh, I was born in the wrong generation and put up, like, bands of Linkin Park. And I was like...
You know that scene from Saving Private Ryan where the old man just like perfectly fades into was it Matt Damon in that movie? I don't remember who that was, but just like this, like.
But I remember the scene, yeah.
It just like that, but in reverse. That's. I get. Oh man. But yeah, because when I was a kid, that was when. I'm trying to think what was popular when I was a kid. Ace of Base. Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, they're bad now, aren't they? Aren't they Nazis or something?
Yeah, I think they're Nazis. I'm not super sure, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm trying to think about like what's popular. Like Britney Spears was popular when I was a kid. I remember that. NSYNC. Like a lot of boy bands. I remember boy bands mostly.
Yeah.
I was a very edgy kid who didn't listen to modern music.
Oh,
gross.
Man. So that's the life we're in. Fucking man, that's another thing that this week has been is that the TERFs have been out in force this week.
Have they?
Well, yeah. They were really mad at Joe Biden last week.
Oh yeah, because he deleted all cis women.
Yeah.
He did it. All women are gone. Misogyny has won at last, and it turns out that Biden was in fact the puppet of Bernie Sanders, the misogynist, because now all women have been deleted.
Yeah.
Praise.
Hard week for women because a trans person was appointed to a position, and Bernie Sanders looked grumpy in a chair. The two worst things that can happen to women.
That was a weird one for Twitter for a while.
Yeah, when it was like when he sat so misogynistically in that chair
with his mittens and jacket in the cold.
Yeah.
How dare he? No, but yeah, that happened because for some reason I feel like TERFs can't even realize how completely regressive they are, in the sense of like because the alternative would be that like Joe Biden doesn't do this, which reduces rights for all women. So they were actually whole ass advocating for like less rights for everyone, all LGBT people and women generally, so that trans people can't go to the fucking bathroom.
Yeah.
The most important social issue of the day.
Goddamn, I hate it so much.
It's wonderful discourse we have right now. It's like Twitter. It's like Tumblr discourse of 2015, but now it's like mainstream.
Yay. Yeah, on behalf of all cis people, I am so sorry. I hate everything about this. I hope you know that.
Right, it's fine. Thankfully, I haven't really been affected by it that much, because I don't know why, but like TERFs don't really bother me on Twitter. They never like seek me out, and I can only imagine it's because like I got in an argument once, like 3 years ago, and thoroughly like annihilated them with facts and logic, and now they never come back.
They're afraid of your power.
They're afraid of my extraordinary power. Yes.
Because yeah, it's like, what's it called? They know what's happened when English people pissed off Sweden in the past, and if they want to hang on to their holy relics, then they better not make you angry.
Better not piss us off. We're taking back the Danelaw.
Precisely. Okay.
Honestly, though, if Scotland leaves the Union and unionism fucking dies, which is like a very real possibility soon, why can't we just split up the England as well into becoming like Wessex and Essex, Northumbria, and also the Danelaw just in there for people as well.
Just reinstate the kingdom of Jorvik.
Yeah, just balkanize the UK as much as is physically possible.
Yeah, and we'll be centrist. Half of it goes to Scandinavia, and half of it goes to Wales.
Half of it goes to Wales, and all of it goes to the European Union.
It's like, what's it called? It's like the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, but it's Sweden and Wales just carving up England.
Just carving up England. Oh, I love that. Scotland now extends down to York, almost. Then Jorvik begins. I like this. I'm good with this.
We solved. Yeah, you know, people who like weird geopolitical things to happen just so the map can change. This is one that we can get behind. This is a map go change I can support. One of my favorite side things to do in CK Crusader Kings, 2 or 3, was as Wales conquering all of Britain and making the Empire of Prydain or something like that.
Hell yes.
Because you think about it, if you had the United Kingdom of Wales and the rest, and it's just the dragon flag, I think that maybe we can get started somewhere.
Like, we're talking. We're getting somewhere now, yeah.
They'll rename London to... and they'll have a new Welsh name for London, and it's going to be exactly 1 letter longer than that town. Yeah. And they have to say it by its full name, and so like the news people, they just get that one guy who nailed it in that one clip.
I remember really rehearsing that name once, and now I can't even try it.
Oh man. Yeah, I would love it. Like the European Union accepts Scotland and Wales and Ireland as North Ireland gets reintegrated. And it's just like England, just this little place. And you know that England without its colonial countries would just be so poor. I mean,
tiny, I guess England.
Because there's even like, wasn't there even a few people who are like, I think this might be a little bit antiquated now, but there was an attempt for a little while to turn London into a city-state. Yes,
that was a thing as well. So we should do that as well.
Yep. Just every independence movement in the UK. Not only will London become a city-state, but the city of London will become a city-state within the city-state.
Which is amazing, yes. Well, what would the new capital? It would be like Manchester or some shit like that of England. No, England wouldn't exist anymore. It would be the Kingdom of Wessex and Essex.
Yeah.
And Warwick and Greater Wales.
They would both become suzerain kingdoms of Cornwall.
See, this is why I need more fans that play Hearts of Iron games, so I can get these mods like put in. I need this. I already have like 2 Hearts of Iron mods that make me the Emperor of Scandinavia. I want more.
Cornwall wants independence too. I know. That's why Wessex and Essex would become suzerain or tributary kingdoms of Cornwall.
Tributary kingdoms. God.
I mean, this is the thing. I think we've learned that England cannot govern itself. So my policy towards England now is the same policy that France had towards Germany after World War II, where they wanted to completely break up the country and remove its industrial capacity.
Yeah, just completely balkanize it into smithereens and just make them pay everything to the new mother country. Yeah, works fine.
Yep, there you go.
I don't see any problems with this at all.
It's fine. It'll be fine. Yeah, cancel the UK, basically.
God, that would be good.
The question is, in that situation, what do we do with the queen?
Oh, no queen. At all. The queen can be like the queen of Barbados or some shit like that, because apparently they really like the queen, and they're also like homophobic.
Oh no, Barbados literally just over the weekend voted to remove her as head of state.
Really?
Yeah.
Then maybe I'm not thinking of Barbados then.
We will make her the queen of... She can choose one of either Jersey or Guernsey.
Just one. Just one.
She gets one Channel Island, and she gets to be queen of it.
Maybe she can be queen of like one of the like very like completely desolate islands in the Scottish archipelago.
No, I have it. We will designate her queen of Sealand. She gets that oil platform.
They sunk Sealand.
No. What?
I know. They sunk all of them, I think. No, wait, no. Sealand is around still, right? Am I thinking? I'm curious. Oh no, it's still around. Never mind, I'm wrong.
Okay, I was worried for a second. So she can just live on that oil platform for the rest of her life. Which, like, what? It's like, I was about to say like what, 5 years tops? But then, like, didn't her mom live to be like 110 or something? So we could still have like 15 more years of the queen. Okay. So next question is, we're really ripping on Britain this week. Why are newspapers...
Listen, if any country deserves to be ripped on constantly, it's the British.
It's true. Why are newspapers and tabloids still prominent in the UK? And I think I have something resembling an answer to this.
Then you go. I have no idea.
If I remember correctly, and keep in mind I remember very few things correctly, it's that the UK has some really weird slander and libel laws. And that results in a situation in which UK newspapers can get away with a lot more bullshit.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And I don't understand. That's the... And that they have, like, they have no Fox News. Yeah, well, here's the trick about the UK. All of their news is the Fox News. It's all Fox News. Yeah, they have the
Sun, the Chronicle, Guardian. They have all sorts of shit. They don't need Fox News.
Like, what's it called? The UK is the only place where their media is actually worse than America's.
God. Yeah, that makes sense. I have no idea why. I don't really know that much about English culture, if I'm honest. I like London. I like going to London. Well, I did before COVID, because it's super fucking cheap from Stockholm to London. Like, it's like $10 for a flight to turn there and back, and it's cheaper than Stockholm. So it's great. Go there once a year, stock up on Terry's chocolate orange, and that's all. That's the only good thing that Britain has produced.
Yeah, you know what? When we balkanize and deindustrialize England, the only export they're allowed to put out is Terry's chocolate oranges.
Yes, for sure.
They will
it's
become
the only
new
good
Belgium.
thing that they produce. Industrial Revolution, bad. Empire, bad. A series of European wars, bad. Terry's chocolate orange, also bad, because I think they have some unethical like chocolate sourcing practices. However, tastes good, and I think they got them better recently. So
there you go.
That's the one thing they get to keep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's a question about Logan's Run. I can't remember if Logan's Run is progressive or not for making the people under the dome okay with homosexuality, because their society is supposed to be like a hedonistic dystopia. Like, is it actually regressive to make your fictional society pro-LGBTQ if it's not meant to be a good society? And I think you answered your own question there, and I think the answer is no. I think they were trying to show how degenerate and bad they were by having that in there.
Yeah, I think it's possible to do a sort of inclusive dystopian society.
Yeah, it's called what's it called? Joe Biden's America.
I was gonna say Hunger Games, but same thing. So I think that there are like possibilities to do that, but I think Logan's Run is probably not an example of it.
All right, and now
I've been watching a lot of Hunger Games recently. That's why I mentioned it. For some reason, I'm obsessed with Hunger Games. I don't know why.
I'm gonna have to make we're gonna have to work together then when I make a Tristan Won't Shut Up video where I do a way too in-depth discussion about the Hunger Games, because I not only did I teach the Hunger Games twice, because I took an American Cultural Studies class when I was doing my American Studies MA, where I had to lead a lecture, and the lecture was where they get basically for the way the class worked is everybody got 1 week of the course, and they had one piece of culture and one piece of theory, and you had to lead the discussion on it. Tristan got simulation and simulacra and the Hunger Games.
Amazing, yeah.
So I had to put way too much thought into the Hunger Games already. But then that year, because I took online journalism, graphic novels, and feminist literary theory, they assigned me children's literature as my course as a TA for that year. Like, I was a history major, I was in American Studies, and they said, children's literature, he could do that. So I was a TA for children's literature, in which around the exact same week as I was leading this lecture on the Hunger Games, the reading for that week was also the Hunger Games. So I have read the Hunger Games a lot, and I have talked about it quite a bit.
Nice. But yeah, future collab. Because I've also thought way too much about the Hunger Games, just from a hobby perspective.
Yeah.
For some reason, I've read all of them like 3 times. They're weirdly good.
Here's the thing. I have only read the Hunger Games. I have not read the sequels. And
the later ones go into some like actual weird like revolutionary theory, almost a little bit. Like Mao bad, but also violent revolution maybe good.
Mao bad ?
It actually goes into some deep territory, like in the later books. Like it hits weirdly hard, along with the fucking love triangle.
Interesting.
It's a good book. I'm gonna rewatch the movie tonight instead of working. Fuck.
The movies made me a little bit worried about the books, but maybe the books are better, because I feel like
way better.
I've been kind of the first Hunger Games movie I feel like was good in its own kind of unique way, because it was directed by a guy who had only directed music videos before, and so it had this very unique feel to it. And if you watch it again, it's like, this is like, people don't usually make movies this way. It's really interesting. But
yeah.
But then the sequel, where they get that guy who played Bernard from Westworld and some other people, like, I was like, where they had like this, like, I don't know, like, I was worried about it, because I was like, oh, there's this like really ham-fisted random way that they decided that there's going to be another Hunger Games that Katniss has to be in again. It's like, oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Which is like, it felt like when they made The Matrix, and then they were like, well, that movie was good and had a complete story, and then a dump truck full of money showed up in front of the Wachowskis' house, and they were like, we want you to make more of them. And they're like, well, how can we make more Matrix?
I feel like the setup is a bit ham-fisted, but it pays off. I think it works.
Also, just a reminder that this year we're supposed to get Lana Wachowski's Matrix, but Matrix 4. And I've been watching a little bit of Sense8 recently, and I was like, oh my god, this movie is going to be so gay. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be so gay. It's going to be so gay, and it's going to be so... It's
horny.
Going to be bad. It's going to be horny. It's going to be bad. And it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
It's going to be the first movie any of us get to see after we get the COVID vaccine. And we're all going to think that the weird visions we see in the screen are because of the vaccine. But no, that's just what Lana Wachowski makes movies.
Yeah. Post Sense8, Lana Wachowski making a Matrix movie, it's like, oh, this is going to go some places.
Because even The Matrix got a little horny, and they've only gotten hornier as making movies. And Lana Wachowski is hornier Wachowski.
Yeah,
it's gonna be so horny.
Sense8 might be the horniest TV show I've ever seen.
Yes. Without a doubt.
It is like it's not even, it's an there's literally an entire scene in their New Year's Day special that is literally a celebration of being horny. Like literally talking about why being horny is great.
Oh, what a good show that is.
Yeah, R.I.P. Should have had 1,000 seasons.
Should have never ended. Yeah.
Should have been like Doctor Who. Just whenever a sensate decides to leave, they just get a new one.
Perfect.
Okay, the next question is... Oh, wait. I accidentally deleted it. Here we go. All right. The sentence structure is a little interesting, but I have a feeling that we could meme our way through this question pretty easily.
Okay.
Why did the Mongols lose at Ain Jalut? So we know what a Mongol is.
We know this.
We've heard of them. Ain Jalut is... The Battle of Ain Jalut was fought between the Bahri Mamluks of Egypt and the Mongol Empire on the 3rd of September, 1260, in southeastern Galilee in the Jezreel Valley near the spring of Herod.
What a deep-cut question.
Yes, for real. So that's in what would I think be modern-day, like the West Bank, I think, is where Ain Jalut is now. I think, maybe
that makes sense. If we're talking Mongols and like, what was it? Mongols and Egyptians, like the Mamluks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like the West Bank. That sounds like a place that they interacted.
So, was it a naval battle? Now that would be interesting.
Listen, they tried.
They tried to tame seahorses. It didn't work.
Doesn't work that well, no. Why? I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. So if this is on a test, don't listen to me. I'm gonna say, as a gut feeling, that the reason is because of a lack of a central strategic authority in the Mongol troops, which led them to be more disorganized than the Mamluks.
There you go. I mean,
Take that.
Yeah,
might not be true at all. I have no clue.
I would say, first of all, horses and deserts, not exactly best friends, and something makes me think that the Mamluks probably had a better grasp on dromedary cavalry. But that might be a thing, because I know that there were a lot of cavalry that got their asses kicked by people who knew how to camel properly. Because I feel like in a place like the Middle East, where there's not like the most amount of natural terrain, that the typical Mongol strategy of shoot at them with arrows and then run away, and then when they chase them, shoot at them again, might not work as well, especially when your horses are getting stuck in the sand and they are on big, ugly, humped like monsters that the horses are naturally afraid of.
That makes sense.
You remember, like, this is something I learned, is that camels apparently scare the shit out of horses, and so when like a lot of cavalry, their horses would be really, really freaked out by camels. I understand. Camels are not exactly the nicest creatures in the world.
Oh, they're big and scary.
Yeah.
I have another question. I looked it up and I found the real answer, actually.
Okay.
Because the Mamluks drew on the remnants of their ancient ally, the Finno Hyperspace Alliance, and called in their Death Destroyers from orbit, and that's why.
Orbital bombardment. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, they had like tungsten or orbital tungsten bombardment. And say what you want about like horse archers, they can't really do anything against that.
Yeah, it's a little bit out of their range.
A little bit, just a little bit though.
In Dungeons and Dragons, you attack with disadvantage if you try to shoot something in orbit with your bow.
Yeah, you shoot with disadvantage. Yeah. Horse archer versus tungsten orbital bombardment.
Exactly.
It's okay.
And that's there you go. And we both have
60-40 shot.
We both have master's degrees in history. That's completely unrelated to that topic, so you know we're correct.
I don't. I have a half master's degree. I want to be clear with that. I don't want
right.
anyone to think that I have it. I don't want to steal valor from actual master degree people. I almost had it, and then I became sick and dropped out.
I dropped out of a PhD.
You've dropped out of PhD, huh?
I dropped out of a PhD because I wanted to do YouTube. So,
yeah. Listen, we do YouTube historians. I feel like do a lot similar work of like actual historians who write books, because the historians who do research are the people who actually do like the science of history, and they never publish anything that anyone actually reads.
Yeah.
They only publish it that we read and then make animations on YouTube for. So without us, where would they be?
That's why I did it, because one of the things I learned very quickly was that the history that you do in academic history class and how they understand the past, and then how average people understand the past, is very different.
Completely different worlds. That is something that I think that's actually one of the reasons why I dropped out as well, because I feel like the historians have like one of the worst problems that historians have right now is like science communication. Like STEM people have like so many people who do science communication these days, and the history field has nothing. Philosophy has PhilosophyTube, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the humanities need better science communication.
In 2015, there was like nobody for history.
Yeah, like no one. There were history YouTubers who talked about the Second World War, and that was it basically.
Mm-hmm. And in 2015, yeah, that's when I started, and then like now I am not alone. There's a lot of us now.
We're getting up there. Yeah.
Okay. The next question is, and I have an answer to this for this, but let's see. Okay. What is the best response to the anti-abortion argument that women should just give up the baby for adoption? I'm specifically asking for cases where there's no health risks in the pregnancy, so the woman is just choosing to have an abortion. And I have an answer, a one-word answer that works really well. There's two good answers. First one is bodily autonomy. Human, like, what's it called? People have the right to choose what they do with their body. But second, if you don't care about that, which a lot of people who are anti-abortion don't, there's in Eastern Europe, there's this country called Romania. It used to be called the Kingdom of Wallachia, that completely banned abortion. And it's one of the most horrible horror shows in history, because what happened was, when the system was eventually given up on, it had a completely overburdened orphanage system in which the workers were not able to tend to children. You had babies that had never been touched, and they had just been staring at a ceiling for like weeks. And it was one of the most horrible like things that could happen to children. And so first of all, the adoption industry is not optimal, and even people who do like foster parenting and adoption stuff, they know that this is not the optimal situation. Like, it's very traumatic for kids to go through that process. And not to say that it's not like a very important and good service, just that the process of adopting out children is always going to be fraught with a lot of traumatic experiences for kids. And yeah, so like just like throwing it off on like the adoption system is it's like,
yeah, the adoption system isn't really made to do that, like at all. Yeah, like it creates like an untold misery for kids and adults, by the way. Yeah, and like the number one answer, like you said, like bodily autonomy is like the one answer. And again, like you covered both bases pretty well.
There is also the
when did Romania ban all abortions? I don't actually know anything.
This was like late Ceausescu, so it was also
that makes sense.
Yeah, this is like like the this is one of the things that like first things they changed after communism fell in Romania.
God, Ceausescu, damn.
Yeah. Would my plan of forcing people to foster kids for a year help? Fuck no. Because
no,
we're not returning to this idea. Because children, if I've learned one thing, is that children can be traumatized by having major changes in their life at such a formative age. And so just being like, just handing them off from parent to parent because they just are thinking about having kids is like, I cannot imagine something worse for a young child.
That is somehow worse than the current system of adoption.
Yeah.
Aren't abortion banned in Poland today? Someone asked. I mean, very close to, yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. And I don't know why whenever abortion curtailment of abortion rights comes up, that people don't talk about Romania, because Romania was like the case where you see what happens when you ban abortion. But then there's the other option, which there's a long argument about bodily autonomy that I think there was a Philosophy Tube video about, where like say you went to go get like a blood test or something like that, something completely innocuous, and then the doctor comes to you and says, hey, you have a very rare blood thing that means that your kidney is the only kidney on Earth that matches this one person who has no kidneys, and that you need to if you can donate that kidney, then that person will live, and if you don't, they will die. And if you are anti-abortion, then you should also be able to make the argument that the government should then be able to send in the police and basically force you to give up your kidney and essentially, like, go under surgery, risk your life, put your health at risk, just so that this person can live. And if you think that the government you should be forced the government should be able to force you to do that, then that's one argument. But then that means that we're probably going to have a very different conversation. Yes.
It's a good video by Philosophy Tube, though. Like, it's my favorite, because it also makes fun of Ben Shapiro, which I am in whole support of.
It's true. Ollie's impersonation of Ben Shapiro was very good.
I could never do that.
I know you understand. Like, I know that, like, you might want to donate the kidney and that you can survive with one kidney. Here's the thing: do you think that the government should have the right to force you to do it? Yeah,
exactly. Because once we start doing that argument, we're also saying that that the government can force people to donate organs, which is an argument, but that's not. But almost no one thinks we should do that.
Yeah, and then if you have one, and then you get to the other person, like, what if one person had several, or if this person had walked into a hospital and then there were organs that could save 5 people's lives but kill this one person, then should you have the right to do that? When there was because Ireland only got abortion last year. There was one of the big cases was a woman in Ireland was unable to terminate a pregnancy that was damaging her health, and she and the child both ended up dying because she was unable to get the healthcare she needed. So there's a lot of...
I'm gonna rewatch the Philosophy video on this afterwards too. I have a lot of rewatch time. I'm not gonna work after this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make myself a cup of tea and watch good videos.
I mean, sometimes I do that for inspiration.
Yeah, I should do that for inspiration as well, because I need it.
I have an inspiration playlist that are my favorite, most high quality YouTube videos that I watch when I'm thinking about how I want to approach something or something like that.
Yeah, I have a list like that too. It's YouTubers to steal from, and it's just ContraPoints and Philosophy Tube, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I just find the good ideas that I take and I steal.
There's supposed to be a ContraPoints.
I'm kidding.
There's supposed to be a ContraPoints video any day now. It's been
It was
teased.
supposed to be a counterpoint visit like a week ago.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's supposed to be coming someday.
It's coming one day. We'll see.
All right. The next question we got here is, do you think that the police coordinated with the Trump supporters at the Capitol?
Oh, 100%, 1,000%. There's video evidence of them taking selfies, for God's sake. Oh, 100%. I think Congress people like sent the texts to the people who had like gas to show them the directions down to where they were. 100%. I think that this happened. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that this happened. This is clear evidence of a huge conspiracy in the high ranks of the American government to seize power, and it's just luck that it didn't fucking work.
There's also the fact
100%.
that a lot of those people on J6 were off-duty police officers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that's a thing. Isn't she in rehab? Who's in rehab?
I think they're referring to counterpoints, but I don't want to speculate about anything like that.
What? Is that a thing?
Let's not do that.
Okay, this is literally the first I've heard about it.
Let's not. Yeah, that's when we're talking about like creator content. I think is fine to do here, but let's not dig into personal lives of people.
All right.
In my opinion,
Fair.
speculation is bad.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Okay. Alt history question. If communism didn't take hold in Russia, do you think Russia would have been able to industrialize the same rapid pace that they did? Do you think Russia would have been able to fight off the Nazis like they did in World War II?
Well, if the revolution hadn't sparked in Russia, it would definitely have sparked in Germany, almost definitely.
Yeah, if you were to say in like 1915 that there was going to be a fascist revolution and a communist revolution in Germany and Russia,
and you
were
said
to
that
say which one is which,
you were going to say that Russia is going to be the communist one, they would laugh in your face. You stole this from Alice's point on what could go wrong. I completely forgot the name of the podcast that I was on.
Well, there's your problem.
Well, there's your problem. Yeah, because she makes that point.
Well, yeah, it's very true too. Like Russia was very nationalistic and very conservative and very backward, and like, you know, it was the most like still in its royalty phase country of Europe at the time, and Germany was like, you know, it was having a grand old time. Actually, I don't even know what 1915 or 19. Let's go pre-World War I, like 1913 Germany. I don't know what Germany was doing in 1913. No one does. Nobody was there.
They were doing weird science. That's what they were doing. They were doing weird science, trying to make everyone speak German in Alsace-Lorraine, and like consuming copious amounts of wine and
cocaine
and building and doing military stuff.
Yeah, mastering the chemical process of refining mustache wax. You know, German stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But would they have been able to industrialize? I think they would have been able to industrialize. Like, a big part of why they weren't able to industrialize were just completely inept leadership, and that leadership would have gone one way or another. Like, maybe not the communist revolution in Russia, but like some sort of revolution would have happened in Russia eventually.
Yeah, they would have had, like, remember that really really weak revolution that happened before the Bolshevik Revolution earlier in 1917?
Yeah, like if that one had lasted, I think the same sort of, maybe not the same, but definitely a similar type of industrialization would have happened. Just because, like, that's, I think, like, with the big problem that Russia had at the time was like just completely inept leadership, and no will to change it because they were in charge.
Yeah, because the emperor was his own cousin, and he was he liked things the way they were. He was like, I'm my own cousin. My cousin is also the leader of Germany, and my other cousin is also the head of England. And this is normal and good somehow.
My three cousins, thrice removed, are also all of the governors in all of the Russian provinces. And I have also killed half of my officer staff for being suspected socialists.
Yeah.
I see no problem with this system of leadership.
He'll be fine. Also, didn't, like, when World War I broke out, didn't, like, Nicholas, like, go to the front for a little while?
After Russia completely failed defending its own borders against Germany, he went to the front and made it worse.
All right, actually, we need to be even more fair. After Russia completely failed to fight Austria-Hungary,
which is like, oh,
yeah, if you can't beat Austria-Hungary in a war, while it's also fighting Italy.
Yeah, and Serbia, by the way.
Serbia.
Still, like several months into the war, with no one supporting them, no supplies coming in, they've completely isolated a very small new country, by the way, against the might of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, where they could focus basically all of their might against them. If they can't, it just really shows just how awful the Russian military was at this time.
Yeah. You're saying that the Austro-Hungarian Empire wasn't able to rely on its very powerful ally in Sultan Mehmed IV, whose like country was like literally crumbling apart as it was happening.
Oh yeah. God, what a people talk like people who fantasize about like Kaiserreich alternate history completely ignore the fact that both Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire was like this close to imploding just on their own.
Yeah.
No war needed. They were like this close to just burn up anyway. And Germany was just like the only faction here that has some like semblance of unity, and that's like barely.
But the thing is, like, Germany, like, World War I was a lot closer than World War II, and Germany almost took on the entire world in one.
Like, Germany took on like almost like they beat the Eastern Front basically all of their own. Because God knows Austria-Hungary barely did it. They sent soldiers through Austria-Hungary to fight their wars for them on their fronts, and also did like significant headway into France.
Yeah,
the only thing that held them back was like an industrial blockade and plague.
Yeah, I do have. Maybe this is me speculating. I do think World War I could have been won by Germany. Not that it definitely would have, but it could have been if it wasn't for the Spanish flu. Just because I think that they like the war, like the thing about World War II. World War II was basically over by 1943. Everybody knew it. It was just like, what were the terms of the Axis losing?
Oh yeah.
But
the second like 4 months, the Soviet Union has lasted more than 4 months. Oh, then they're fine.
Yeah.
Germany's just fucked then.
Yeah.
Because if they haven't beaten the Soviets by now, it's over.
Mm-hmm. World War I, though, like, either side could have won as late as, like, mid-1918. Like, it was Germany having a socialist revolution and the Spanish flu at the exact same time that kind of caused it to fall apart.
Plus, like, complete, like, the military just deciding, like, the civilian government being like, hey, maybe we should, like, surrender, have a sort of white peace-ish thing. Maybe we should like have a peace with honor and something like that. And the military just goes, no. Fuck, like any semblance of democracy, dictatorship time, and plus becoming like fully autocratic almost. Okay.
Plus, if you want to know who actually won the First World War, the post-war plans for the German Empire was what it looked like was to create a continent-wide international like body that would coordinate and have a common market and for open borders,
common currency.
Yeah, and so like basically their idea was to create this sort of union of European states that would be headed by Germany. And it's like, so who really won World War I? Really?
Who really? Yeah, in the end.
So now, where is Hearts of Iron 4's total conversion mod called Merkelreich?
God.
where she has like a pickling helmet and wears like what's it called, the Prussian military uniform while she rules Europe.
It probably, yeah, like Pim Corman says, it probably already exists. My God. What an interesting time.
Yeah.
What an interesting time we're talking about here. Yeah. But I mean, Germany, God, what a world. Communist Germany, though, would look very interesting in modern history if that happened. Which is somehow like more likely than like Kaiserreich, like infinitely, because Germany wasn't going to win that war anyway.
I mean, yeah, Kaiserreich is like very much like the Germans win World War I, and the West interprets that by having every fringe ideology somehow succeed. Like, if an ideology had more than 15 people in the country supported it, they take over the country. So, like, that's like basically the story. Like, they take like a syndicalist movement in America that was like kind of popular like amongst people, miners in rural regions, and then has it like just like become a modern army. Like, it's like, oh boy, okay,
that's great.
Yeah,
alt history is fun, but it's also important to remember that like no alt history was ever possible, because if it was possible, it would have happened.
Yeah,
there is only one timeline for now.
Kaiserreich is fun, but it is not very plausible, is what I'll say. Okay.
God, I should play Kaiserreich. I haven't played on stream or something. It would be fun.
Would get approximately every single person on Twitch watching that.
People like Kaiserreich, and I don't get it because it's so railroaded. Like, I can't play it because like I like alternate history games because I can decide the alternate history. I don't like alternate history games when they like tell me the story and force me to just read a book.
People who are into Kaiserreich are really into Kaiserreich, though.
They're getting a TV series now or something. They're like making an animated. Well, maybe not like TV series, but like they're getting like an animated series on YouTube. Like they're making one. It's like crowdfunded. They have merch. It's like a thing. It's huge.
Is Paradox like, hey, interesting TV show you got there? Mind if you cease and desist?
Well, I mean, Paradox doesn't own the concept of alternate history fiction around World War II. It just happens that it's inspired by a fucking mod.
Yeah, fair. Plus, that would be like they would lose so much goodwill if they did that.
I mean, they're hanging on by a thread considering the fucking DLC prices. They have a subscription model for Europa Universalis now, so.
Really?
Yeah, you can pay $5 a month and you get access to all the DLC. You can have a subscription service to Europa Universalis.
It's like Microsoft Office, but for Europa Universalis 4.
Yes.
Does that mean that you can get access through your university?
If you're a history major, yeah, they pay for a Europa Universalis subscription.
All right. Could you talk about pre-Columbian warfare? That's a pretty big topic, and it's very different in a lot of different places. Yeah. I will say that there was, depending upon where you were, there was a lot more of an emphasis on war for capture than war for killing. They didn't have that much of a concept of conquering territory and land, so they were more interested in captives and people. For either,
yeah.
Depending upon where you were, it was either for slave labor or for what's sometimes European writers call slave labor, but was actually them like doing this sort of like spiritual adoption ritual in order to it's called covering ceremony, to integrate new people to sort of spiritually replace a child that has died or somebody's child who's died. Then there was like kind of in like Nahuatl speaking areas, there were war for captives because they had a war god that needed captives that needed to be sacrificed. Like it was different in a lot of places, but I think the main big difference that you'd see in a lot of them is that they did a lot of more war that was like if you were a powerful warrior, It was based on how many heads you could capture, not how many people you could kill, if that makes sense.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, and also the Aztecs had this like armor that was made out of like, I think it was, it might have been cotton, but it's some sort of cloth. And so it made them look like big puffy teddy bears.
Wholesome.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a picture of their armor. Because like sometimes they look like they were big and puffy. Like sometimes people write them to look like badasses, but then like they look like sometimes they're like the jaguars, which are sort of like Aztec knights, would have this cotton what's it called, armor that would look something like this.
Oh, the original furries.
Yeah, I'll put it in chat here. Something like, I don't know if this is even showing up in the thing. Kind of. This. Yeah. So it's obviously a very big generalization of only the parts of indigenous American history that I know of, because like I don't know all that much about South American indigenous cultures, to be honest. There's also a really cool weapon that the specifically Aztec warriors used called a macahuat, which was like, imagine a cricket bat, but the thin sides of the cricket bat have these pieces of sharpened obsidian in them, which you then hack and saw with. And
oh my God.
According to the documents of Hernando Cortez, they were able to decapitate a horse with one of these.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, it feels like a very heavy, like, powerful weapon.
Yeah. And yeah, you don't fuck around with these people, okay?
Yeah. Like people talk a lot of like a lot of racists, I feel like, especially in history, talk about like the Europeans came and they conquered them with their superior weaponry, and it's like, nah, the only reason European colonialism of the Americas was successful in like the 14 and 1500s is because of disease. That's the only fucking reason.
Yeah.
If disease had not been a factor, the Aztecs and like all sorts of like native peoples would have kicked the Spanish's ass in almost every fucking level.
Yeah. So like I made a video about this in 2016, and it's going viral right now, and so I'm getting so much stupid racist comments, even stuff that like, because there's a book on this called 1491, which is like one of my favorite books, and everybody should read it. That goes into all sorts of stuff, like how like there's this common myth that like the Spanish were able to conquer the Incan Empire because Pizarro had his cavalrymen take care of it, and then it's like you realize that the Inca live in like these like mountaintop cities, and I don't know if you've heard about horses and stairs, but they're not like the best of friends, and these are like really tight small stairways and stuff like that. But the reason they were able to do it is because they were able to they came in under the auspices of peace, and then they just captured the king.
Yeah, being sneaky like bastards.
Yeah. They abuse their goodwill. The other thing too is there's like a lot of like a lot of people are like, oh, it's like I need to do my like Jared Diamond voice. It was all because of guns, and then it's like, okay, the guns that they had when they like arrived in Mexico were called arquebuses, which they had only recently imported from the Middle East, because you know, Arabs invented the gun. Just in case anyone didn't know.
I feel like it's something that like a lot of people for some reason assume that Europeans invented firearms. I have no idea why. Like
the Thessalonian walls were taken down with a really big arrow.
God, and they're not that good guns either.
No, so these
people
things
are still using pikemen at this point because they're effective.
Yeah. So they these guns were huge, and they were they basically like were they were more miniaturized cannons than they were guns at this point.
They were more likely to explode in your hand than they were to be like a good like sidearm.
Yeah. So the reason why they were in any ways effective is because they were loud as fuck, and that scared the shit out of people who had never heard a gun before. But the other thing the only thing that really even made muskets more effective than or muskets more effective than firearms, or more effective than archers, I guess is what I'm supposed to be saying, is because you can train somebody to fire a gun in like an hour, and it takes like years to be a competent archer. And so
that's why, by the way, they do the square infantry thing where they all like line up and like they huddle, because you don't actually have to aim that well. If you have like 20 people aiming in generally the same direction, you're gonna hit something.
Yeah. Like so like every time like I got like all these comments that are like, oh yeah, well, if guns were so much worse than bows and arrows, then how come everybody wanted them? Like, you're dumb. I see that in the scientific documentary Civilization 5 that when you move to guns you do more damage. And it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, those guns were so much better and so much more accurate that they had to completely switch the way warfare functioned so that you could line up grids of people, because these guns can't even like can't kill somebody beyond like 50 feet. So they had to like line up and stare at each other and shoot guns in each other's faces, because not because like until like maybe like rifling, which started happening in like the early 19th century. If you were a competent archer, which takes a long time to be good at, you could kick the ass of somebody who was firing a gun that takes 30 seconds to reload, makes a huge amount of noise, and is inaccurate past like about 30 feet. Like,
yeah. But that's also why, like one of the big reasons why they decided to do this, like big restructuring, is like because before, if you don't have guns and like you're going to war, you're gonna gather up a bunch of people and train them for like a year, and then you go off and fight somewhere. Like you go to have a siege or something, or you break a siege, and that's basically what you do. And then guns comes along, and it's like, oh cool, I don't have to train anymore.
Gun comes along.
I can just give everyone a gun and go off immediately and fuck everyone up before they train their bows.
Yeah, and then we don't have to raise professional fighters. We can just go to the fields and just grab peasants and say,
yeah,
like, look,
there's a gun, you stand in a row and shoot.
You can go, like, what's it called? You mean we don't have to, so these weapons are much more inaccurate and they don't work. Yes, I know, they're not as good weapons. But you don't have to have all of your soldiers cover themselves in plate and train for years on how to fight with spears and bows and stuff. Yeah, you could just take an afternoon. You could just grab some random poor person that you think is expendable and throw them in a brightly colored uniform and have them shoot at each other with fancy hats. Yeah. They're like, okay, that's a way better way to do war.
Yeah, nice.
This is going to define war for the next 300 years. Until, like, that was basically all war was until trench warfare basically broke it.
Yeah.
Napoleon broke it. You can blame Napoleon.
Yeah, once you have like the same principle but just like more, where you don't actually can line up anymore, then it's like, oh well.
What if we dig trench?
Now
what if we dig trench and fire shells? They're like cannonballs that go boom when they land, and they're like,
These can blow up an infantry square, you say? Interesting.
Interesting.
I will build 800,000 of them.
And what will you do with it? Well, we'll start with Spain, then Italy, then Germany. Remember the Holy Roman Empire?
Europe. Delete. Delete us.
There was a time where, what's it called? Like, before World War II, where France was the bad guys of Europe, and people talked about Napoleon the way that people talk about Hitler today.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's why they named World War One as it was happening. Like it's not that they were like anticipating a second one. It's because like people talk about the Great War now because they forgot about the Napoleonic Wars. Back in those days, they called the Great War the Napoleonic Wars because basically, I mean, in some ways, the Napoleonic Wars were bigger than World War One. Like just in terms of like world population and like scale, and the amount of political change. I mean, like if you look at like the world before World War One and the world before before and after World War One, like not that much changed really when you think about it. Two empires broke, well, three empires broke, and that's basically it. Before and after the Napoleonic Wars, the world is entirely fucking different.
Yeah, after the wars,
new countries somehow, entirely new titles.
Yeah, the only wars I could think that might have had bigger concepts or similarly sized changes was the 7 Years' War, which was basically where England and France decided to fight over New World colonies, and England just got all of them.
Yeah.
And then the other one would be the 30 Years' War, because at that the treaty that ended that war was literally the treaty that said, okay, now countries exist. Like what you could call countries didn't really exist before the Treaty of Westphalia. So
yes, exactly. That's basically the beginning of the idea of sovereignty. So
yeah.
Then some asshole had to have a treaty in Westphalia, and now I have to worry about nationalism.
Mm-hmm. So. And yeah, so to take that to indigenous warfare or pre-Columbian warfare, a lot of indigenous cultures, at least in North America, which is where I know about stuff more, their concept of territory was a lot more loose, and so the idea of fighting for land was not the same. And so yeah, it was about people and about driving people out of like primary like foraging locations. There was a pretty long series of conflicts between the Haudenosaunee and Algonquin-speaking people that was like kind of going throughout Ontario. And a lot of that stuff was made worse when Europeans showed up, because remember how I said there was that sort of like, you'd go to war to capture people so that you could replace somebody who died in your community? Mm-hmm. So you can imagine what happens when you take that kind of cultural system and introduce diseases that wipe out 80% of your population. Yep. And there was this series of huge conflicts called Mourning Wars, which was basically all of the societies that were having contact with the French were getting all of these weird diseases and dying, and they started going to war with each other to capture people so they could maintain their societies while still being like... and also fighting over, there's also the Beaver Wars, which is the most Canadian name for a war ever.
What?
The Beaver Wars.
Oh, of course. I'm guessing for fur.
Yeah. Canada was basically started because they found out that these animals called beavers make very good hats. And so... not
a joke. That's not an exaggeration at all, by the way. That's not even a simplification. That's literally the reason. Yeah,
that's why the symbol of Canada is a beaver, because Canada was founded on beaver pelts. So a lot of their early beaver pelts would come from les voyageurs, which were like really like everyone, there's this whole, they were like French men who would just go into the woods and just go collect beaver for years and then just emerge with like things, but also intense trading. Like Montreal was basically established to trade with the Haudenosaunee, I think the local Mohawk people, I think were the people who lived there. Yeah, so it's a whole thing. There's a whole lot to talk about like how completely different concepts of like what was important and what like the two different cultures. Couleur de bois. Oh yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Correct. These are like my ancestors, because they were like, you're tired of being because also, a lot more about medieval history in more feudal areas, not so much in like Scandinavia, that like things like hunting were considered leisure sports and average people were not allowed to do it.
Oh God, no. That's something for the Lord to do.
Yeah.
The Lord and his friends.
If say take like my grand X16 grandfather who lived in the Poitou region of France and just, I don't know, farmed turnips so that he could have turnip juice to live or whatever it is that they did.
Delicious, yeah.
Then says, oh, there's a new France now. So you can go over there It gets to -40 in the wintertime, and we don't know how to make any of the crops grow. Everybody's freezing and starving to death, and there's probably plague, but you can go and hunt these little rats that have very good fur. And apparently some people
sell them and make a little bit of money.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how this turned into me just explaining French colonial history, but
it's great. We're having a great time. People come to this I keep saying podcast, to this stream, to see us get completely off the rails.
It's true, and we don't for two people who are really into history, we don't talk about history as much as you'd think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was so like a lot of those things would happen. Then a lot of like war between indigenous people did exist before, especially like what you would like the kind of the stuff I already described. When you get into like Mexico and that region, you get more traditional stuff like you would think of about like land and territory and things like that. Fairly often, like for example, when the Triple Alliance that makes up the Mexica Triple Alliance that makes up what people would call the Aztec Empire, was not exactly like an empire in the way that you would think of it today. I mean, it is, but it was like. So what they would do is they would go to villages and cities and things like that. They would show up, capture a bunch of people, and then say to everyone left over, "Hey, you are part of. You have to send us stuff every year now. Send us treats. Send treats to Tenochtitlan for the Tlatoani to have. And here is a statue. You worship this statue now. Don't worry, you can worship all of your gods too, but now we have added this statue that you also have to worship." He's a hummingbird. He's a left-handed hummingbird that likes blood. So if you can give him that, he'd really like it. He'd really appreciate it.
Jesus.
Their chief god was named Huitzilopochtli, which was a god of left-handedness, hummingbirds, the general direction of east, and warfare.
Of course. Why not the general direction of east? And warfare.
Yeah, because they had a symbol that represented the 4 cardinal directions. And that's why, like, you know how there's that whole thing where they thought that Cortez was like the herald of Quetzalcoatl, because that was the cardinal direction of west or of east. Of east, I think, actually, that was Quetzalcoatl was east and he was a different one. So they thought, like, oh, he's going to... And there was a prophecy that Quetzalcoatl was going to come back and destroy the world, basically.
Which, I mean, from a certain point of view.
Yeah. So the reason why the Aztec Empire collapsed as fast as it did is, one, they sieged the city while it was having a smallpox outbreak that they had no idea how to handle, which, you know, that's one thing. But also, the Aztec Empire was very fragile because it was basically Tenochtitlan, which is like the big city. It was like, it actually had a bigger population than France at that point, or population of Paris. It was a bigger city than Paris.
Than France? Holy shit!
It was a city that was built in the middle of a lake that had a population larger than Paris, and was cleaner because they didn't have like cows and horses and stuff in the city.
Yeah, they had like good drainage canals. A concept that Europeans didn't figure out until like 400 years later.
Yeah. And they had like what's it called? Those things that Romans love that Europeans forgot how to do for centuries. Aqua things.
What?
Like
Aqueduct?
Yeah, aqueducts. That's it. And they didn't make them out of lead, which is interesting.
Turns out that's bad.
Yeah. So they had all these cities that basically their relationship with Tenochtitlan was they came, killed a bunch of us, and then said, worship this statue and also give us your shit. And so it was very easy for someone to be like, hey, all my homies hate Tenochtitlan, and then he was like, hey, you want to go beat up Tenochtitlan? And they're like, yeah, sure. The biggest one would be a city called Tlaxcala, I want to remember, which became a pretty steadfast ally of Cortez.
I played EU4.
Oh, is that in there?
Yeah, it's all in there. Yeah.
All right. So Tlaxcala allied with Cortez to push down Tenochtitlan because they were kind of a tyrannical empire on the rise at that point. Whew. That is, and so they fell very easily, even though they were probably the most powerful martial empire on that side of the continent at that point.
Turns out you make a lot of enemies when you fuck all of your neighbors up constantly.
Yeah. Especially because a lot of the times they would take captives for human sacrifice, and for as part of it was part religious ceremony and part like political like act of intimidation. So they would randomly, sometimes those cities that were tributaries, they would just randomly declare war again on those cities that were already tributaries because they technically needed to have war captives in order to sacrifice people to that hummingbird god of blood. Which everybody knows they would do by lying you down on a nice little thing, and then they would take an obsidian knife and go right here, right on the liver, and reach up and carve out your heart, in which that would be taken out and that would be burned, all while you're alive, by the way. That's why you can always find out a religious site for an Aztec temple, because there's like just like caked blood, a lot of it, which is not even the most fun of those of the gods, because they had two primary gods. They had another one whose name was Tlaloc, who is depicted as a panther with goggle eyes, and is often depicted with frogs. Frogs are a pretty big part of Tlaloc's
wholesome.
Well, nope.
Oh, no.
So have you ever heard of the El Nino effect?
No.
So the part of Mexico that has happened is semi-arid, which is a part of... So central Mexico is semi-arid, which means that it gets pretty dry. And during... because of stuff with Pacific Current, some years are El Nino and some are La Nina. And what that means is that this is a region where it's very prone to having years with really bad droughts and years with like a lot of rain. And so you can imagine if you're a pre-scientific society that doesn't understand that effect, you might start thinking, oh, we should probably be doing like rituals in order to appease the gods so that the rain comes. And if it's that like huge in its effect, you're going to start doing more and more drastic things. That's sort of the reason why they think that like things like human sacrifice became so big in Mexico.
That makes sense.
Tlaloc is a god of rain, who specifically became associated with small little creatures that that served him called Tlaloque, and they were depicted as sort of like evil little children that were sort of like these trickster creatures. So he was also kind of associated with children. So to sacrifice to Tlaloc, you had to sacrifice somebody who was under the age of 5. And you had to sacrifice somebody who was crying because of rain. So droughts, that's how they chart droughts in that period. It is a super like harsh society they grew up in.
Jesus.
But also a society that produced like amazing poetry, and so
it's impossible to say whether how that actually impacts anything.
Yeah, and yeah, they do bloodletting rituals too, where priests would regularly prick themselves with thorns, like they'd pierce their tongue with thorns, and there'd be blood. And it's what's it called? This you see this kind of stuff in. By the way, like this isn't like these are like evil. Like I mean, obviously, when the Europeans were like saw this for the first time, they were like, "Oh fuck." But
I mean, it should be said also that like, yeah, this is like pretty gruesome, but this is what like 400 years after we basically did the same thing in Scandinavia.
Yeah,
so it's like
look up.
We're no better.
Google Blood Eagle.
Ah, it's good stuff.
And like there was also like a lot of societies that have extremes in weather like that actually seem to have these kinds of practices, sort of like a thing. Saying it like it's a worthwhile trade-off. I mean, I would definitely be against continuing such a practice. Today, people who have who sort of continue the spiritual practice, do so with just sacrifice chickens now.
Yeah.
But does Midsommar have a blood eagle in it?
I don't remember that in Midsummer. I don't remember a proper blood eagle in Midsummer though. They have some weird shit in Midsummer.
A proper blood eagle. It was a pale mockery of a proper blood eagle. The other thing that was interesting about that society is that your name was rather interesting. So children were only named when they reached a year old, in which case they'd be referred to as like just the baby. But then because of like astrological reasons, they would have their name would basically be like based on the calendar. Like, you know, got that calendar back there, like, you know, like the remember how everyone thought the end of the world was coming in 2012 because of the Bakatun cycle? It's like the Maya, that was a Maya calendar, but the Aztecs had a similar one. So like a lot of people had names like Two Rabbit, and like where they would be translated anyway to Two Rabbit or Three Water or something like that. I have a feeling that I have. Sorry, I only got into American history because I realized I would have to go to way more school to go into archaeology to study Central Mexico, so I know way too much about this stuff, and I always want to spiel about it forever. So I should stop.
I feel like I need to study more about this as well.
Yeah, but I have a very strong interest in pre-Columbian societies in the Americas, and I think they were fascinating. And
also, there is a scene there is a blood eagle scene in Midsummer. I was wrong. Holy Jesus!
All I can say is, if you think that this is somehow like uniquely gruesome, just remember the Bogman from England that was found out to just be a Frankenstein of several sacrificed people. You've heard about this?
I know this. I hate this. Why were humans so fucked up? Why did we do this much? Why is it why is it on almost every single continent that humans just decided like, yes, we should do the most horrifying thing we could possibly imagine to another human being? Why? Why? What need was there? If there's anything that that convinces me that like aliens visited Earth, is that like aliens did visit and they said that like, oh, you need to do this or we'll just destroy Earth. Because I can't see any reason why anyone would have to do this.
Oh, someone said, "What is it?" So you remember there's these there's this place in England where there's these bogs that are very low in oxygen, and so any buddy who died in those bogs were found remarkably well preserved as like mummies. And you know, pre-Christian England practiced human sacrifice on the regular, like a lot of Germanic people did. And so one of the things that they found out about, there's this really famous bog body, this like mummy that was discovered, and we talked about him because it was thought that it was probably a human sacrifice because he had like a noose. They used to hang people, I think, in the UK when they sacrificed people. But then more when they started getting into DNA testing, they DNA tested and found out, wait a minute, this bog body has a different person's arm and a different person's like other arm, and it's like this was like some sort of like Frankenstein of different sacrificed people, and everyone's like, the fuck were these people doing? Like they were like making Stonehenge and making like Frankensteins in the bog, and so it's like, whew, that's fun.
What a dark world we live in.
I almost want to go off on one more Aztec thing, but maybe I'll save it. But there was some fun stories about what happened when the Jesuits started showing up and started being like, all right, we're going to turn these Aztecs into Christians. And it was a long and complicated process, especially because that was during the time of the Spanish Inquisition, which was not the most, like, you know, loving and accepting time for Catholicism. So,
not really, no.
Let's try to see. Do you know what Paracon is?
No.
Okay, then I will.
No, wait. Wait. I don't know. There's something in my mind that lights up when you say it. I don't know what it is.
All right, I don't know what it is, so I'm just gonna ask the question.
Wait, can you send it to me, like, in text?
Sure.
No idea.
Yeah, me neither. I was just like the next thing. I wanted to see if I can get a quick question in before we. Are Democrats socialist? Is the next question we got here.
Are Democrats socialists? Like the Democratic Party in America?
Probably, yeah.
No. No, not even close.
Yeah. They have a tiny socialist wing that's made up of, like, maybe 8 people, but
yeah,
that's about it.
I mean, yeah, like, no, not even close. They're center-right. Americans are so extremely, like, brainwashed that they think the Democrats are left because they have 2 political parties and they think that they are, like, both left and right, and that's it. But, like, if you compare on a world scale, today they are center right. If you compare it to a world scale during the Cold War or something like that, they're so far right.
Yeah,
they're even more right. Like, even today, with the overtone window shifted to the right, they're still on the right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in many ways, the Democrat, even though so the way they sell themselves is different. Policy-wise, they're about where the Canadian Conservative Party is. Maybe even more to the right of the Conservative Party. I'm not exactly sure, but
yeah, they're like roughly where our moderate right party is, which is like our Republican Party.
Mm-hmm. All right, it is 1:58, and I would love for you to tell everybody how to consume Mia content, because I think
you can. Yes,
we're getting there. We gotta get the full. I want to get the full thing in. So,
okay, you can get Mia content at youtube.com/c/miamulder. Watch my videos. My channel is doing well at last. Fucking finally, someone flipped a switch in the YouTube offices, and now the algorithm likes me again. After like a full year of not doing that.
Mia Mulder, just like yes on Mia Mulder.
Yes, finally. 2020 has been bad enough. It's a new year. Flick. And I actually finally get good stuff. My next video is going to come out on Sunday. It's probably going to be over an hour long because I hate myself and I like making long videos. You can also see my Twitter ramblings on twitter.com/potatopolitics or on twitch.tv/miamulder. Or if you have a Nebula subscription, you can watch my stuff at watchnebula.com/miamulder. And I get paid very well if you watch my stuff on Nebula. Yep. And they give me more sponsors if you watch. If you click the link in my descriptions, they give me more money, and I like more money. Thank you.
Nice. I will see you guys tomorrow night for my last stream in this apartment, which is bananas. And we're gonna raid Izzy Bear 713.
Hell yeah.
She's playing Temtem, which is like that Spanish Pokemon knockoff.
Oh, I never played Temtem. I have no idea what that is.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.